Now, children, settle back and listen to your bedtime fairy tale from Granniopteryx on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. Now, once upon a time there was a handsome knight called Sir Fairytale, who had vast estates in his shire. Well, council estates to be precise. And one day he decided to hold a huge party. He called it the Labour Party, and he invited the entire country to come and join the balls. Yvette and Ed balls, that is, one being his Home Secretary and the other her favourite television interviewer. Now, it turns out that all was not well in the Shire. Some of the ordinary people, the people whom the balls used to call the working class, but which they had of late changed to the far right, or simply the thugs, were not entirely happy with Sir Fear's way of doing things. They were especially unhappy with the sudden arrival of a lot of guests whom they did not recognise and with whom they had a lot of difficulty communicating. This, I shouldn't have to remind you, children, was extremely ungrateful of those far-right thugs. After all, those guests were mopping up all the spare money that the working classes were earning to pay their taxes, which meant that the working classes had fewer earnings to fritter away on nonsense like petrol and heating the house in winter. And even more, some of those guests seemed to be intent on fathering children off the daughters of the far-right thugs, which the far-right thugs didn't seem to like, which is really ungrateful of them, for how generous could a guest be? What could have caused this sudden outbreak of ingratitude? Well, you see, the far-right thugs, were previously called the working classes, suddenly realised that although they thought that Sir Fear was on their side, they didn't realise that the side he was referring to was their blind side. But let's face it, they were still being terribly ungrateful. All Sir Fear wanted from them was quiet compliance and no complaints. After all those guests were super people, and even though some had demonstrated a somewhat alarming habit of showing how much they disapproved of all those working classes, I mean far-right thugs, we all had to remember that bloodthirsty is our strength. But to make things worse, it wasn't only those far-right thugs who started causing trouble. The unions then started to get uppity and threatened to, well, in the words of Violet Elizabeth, to strike and strike until we were sick. First, it was the doctors on strike, and then the avalanche started. To date, the rail unions are saying they want more, and after that it'll be one of the civil service unions, and so will begin an endless snowball rolling down the magic money mountain, demanding more and more and more and more and more. And poor Sir Fear suddenly came to the realisation that the only friends he had were the police. And so they lived happily ever after, arresting people who need to be arrested for the public good. The end of the Labour Party. Good night, children. Tuck up well. It's going to be very cold for a few years. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing, if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.